Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this live edition of Turnaround Marriage. We are so glad to be back with you. We've actually been out of the pocket for a number of weeks. We've been down and out. We've both been sick. It's not been fun. We recommend not being sick. It's been rough, been a rough go at it, but we're glad to be back with you today. And we want to talk about something that's really important. And if you are a Christian that's out there today, I want to just share with you who this is for. If you're a Christian couple and you're realizing that you and your husband or your wife, you guys are butting heads oftentimes about the most simplest of things, we want to give to you a really important reminder, a surefire way to make sure that you're not going to lose the war in your marriage, and actually that you guys will have breakthrough after breakthrough.
Yes. Hey, everybody. We are Scott and Rachel. We are happy to be back with you. It has been a rough couple of weeks, but we help committed Christian couples finally end the cycles of conflict, negativity, and disconnection and reclaim the love, passion, and playfulness that they once had. And so if you're watching on YouTube, we want you to like and subscribe so that you don't miss any of our content. If you're watching us on Facebook, go ahead and find our group. You can like our Turnaround Marriage coaching page. You can join our group, Turnaround Marriage, and we hope to spend more time with you.
Absolutely. So what we want to share about today is we want to talk about something that is so important. It's such a massively important mind shift, mind adjustment, heart adjustment, you might even say, that is absolutely in alignment with you being a Christian. If you're a Christian couple, this is absolutely so important. It is so saturated in the gospel. It is so clearly part of what it means to be a Christian. Yet sometimes we forget, a lot of times we've actually forgotten that we need to be implementing this first and foremost in our homes, in our marriages. It's something that is massively important that we as Christians are living out on a daily basis. It's really a non-negotiable. And really the beauty of it is that it's a freedom that we actually have. And that is this freedom, the freedom to not have to be right. What in the world does that mean?
It's so good. Well, true. Wait a minute. You might not need to be right, but I definitely need to be right.
I don't know if you're right about that, though. You might not be right.
I could be. You could be wrong in this situation. Have you found yourself where you always have to have the last word, where you're discussing something, there's an argument that's starting to come up, and it's like you want to be right. You have to be right. How many times do couples get stuck in these vicious cycles where they go round and round and round? And guys, we're here to remind you of the truth of the gospel. What does the gospel teach us? That no one is righteous. No, not even one. That not one of us is right all of the time. And so this desire to be right, this desire to have the last word, this desire to come out on top, so to speak, this could actually be killing your marriage. You could win the argument, and you could lose the war in your marriage. And guys, this is not becoming of a Christian to have that last word, to get that last dig in, to be the one who's, digging their heels in, saying you're wrong and I'm right.
Absolutely. And so let's think about it. What is it that the gospel teaches us? That we are innately, because we know the gospel, we know that we are sinners. We know that there is at least a speck probably in our eyes, maybe even more likely a plank. And we're so good at looking at the speck in our brother or sister's eyes, beginning oftentimes in our own marriages. Excuse me. We're picture health already. But the reality is, if we understand how much we've been forgiven, if we understand that we are transgressors against a holy God, it is actually quite freeing to know that you are free in Christ, and free indeed. It is quite freeing to know that you have been forgiven much. And when we really understand and live in and are rooted in the gospel of Jesus Christ, we are then free to not have to be right, because we know intrinsically that we're not. Oftentimes, we are simply not right because we recognize that we're sinners. And what a freeing, wonderful thing that this can be when you recognize and apply the gospel in your own home, your own heart, in your own marriage, where you don't have to be always right. Mm-hmm. So how many needless arguments could have been dissolved on the spot if you could choose simply not to be right? Choose to simply not have to have the last word. What would happen then? And I got a thumbs up there. I got to make sure we're watching any comments. Make sure you're commenting as you guys are listening in. It is such a freeing thing to know that you don't have to have the last word, because you don't have the last word. The Lord does. Mm-hmm. And I'm wrong many times.
What?
Yes.
Let's write this down.
Write it down. It's true. It's true.
Yeah. And despite us being wrong, and despite us wanting our own way, and yet we know intrinsically that, we've got to lay down our lives for our spouse and for the other one. Yeah. It's like, have we forgotten to apply the gospel? As you said, it's so easy for us to apply the gospel for salvation only. And then it's like, we forget about applying it in the everyday nitty gritty, in the everyday marriage arguments, in the everyday, what are we talking about, and who's right and who's wrong? Yeah. Because when we can remember that we are so loved, we are 100% forgiven, that we are washed in the blood of Jesus, and that we do not have to stand up in our own righteousness and our own rightness.
We don't have any righteousness apart from Christ.
Exactly. Right. It's like when we can remember that and apply the gospel in that situation. Yeah. And defer the other person, because what happens is, and in what we've seen in so many couples we work with, is that when they start to get tired of the other person always wanting to be right, and finally they just say, you know what, forget it. You know what, you're right. And they roll their eyes and they just, go on, and they do it in such a way that all of a sudden now, what am I trying to say? It's like I'm going to start stonewalling, and now I'm going to start withdrawing, because I just don't want to argue with you anymore. And yet you can go ahead and be right. But that's not the attitude that we're talking about here when we're talking about deferring and applying the gospel in the marriage. Yeah.
Well, one of the motivating stories for us happened a few years ago. I was visiting a man while I was working as a hospice chaplain, and this man was laying very close to pretty much his deathbed. I mean, he didn't have much time left, and he knew it. Mm-hmm. And we had some real heart-to-heart conversations. And he just looked at me at one point. Tears started coming to his eyes, and he looked at me, and there he was, lost the connection, divorced from his wife a number of years before, lost the connection with her, lost the connection with his children. And there he was, a broken man. And he looks up at me and he says, Scott, I wish, looking back, that I just didn't have to be right. Wow. Like, he realized he had to have been right all those times, and he lost everything. And it was such a powerful message to me that I needed to go forth as well, to make sure that not only was I not holding on to any junk, that I didn't need to be right all the time, but also that this would be propelling us in our mission and what we do now. Yes. That people don't have to live in that regret, but they also can be free in the gospel to not have to be right. Yes. For a Christian person who is married, guys, our minds are set. They have to be. If you're a Christian, your minds are not just set on me or just us. They're set upon him. That's why we're here. You're not your own. You were bought with a price. If you are a Christian, our minds are not just thinking about, well, I've been offended here, or I've not gotten all my needs met. No. We're thinking much bigger than that now. We don't have the freedom to just say, I need to be right here. No, because we're thinking about that we're living now as people free in Christ to live for the glory of Christ. And now my purpose is not to be right or to have my way. My purpose is to glorify the one who saved me and brought me into relationship with him, but also with my spouse. This is massively important. Why did we forget this, guys? Maybe it was when you took the vow down at the altar those days years ago, and you said, we're going to love each other until death do us part. And that was an easy vow to take when you're feeling all goody and giddy inside. Right. But what about later when life starts happening? Does it not apply now? Does the vow not apply at this point?
Mm.
Is it just applying only if you're getting your needs met the way that you want to? Guys, we're called to leave. Hear me, if nothing else today. We are called to leave a lasting legacy. And that is a legacy for Christ, not your own legacy. Not your own legacy about what you need, what you want, you being right. How many people, how many couples have given up because they've been offended, hurt, they're just whatever you would say, and have lost sight of the big picture of what about leaving a lasting legacy for the next generations too, about trusting in God to and not to give up and letting God move and work.
Yeah, it's so
I
good.
get passionate about it.
It's so good because the truth is we cannot leave a lasting legacy if we always have to be right, if we always have to have the last word. What kind of legacy is that leaving? That's not leaving a gospel legacy. That's leaving a legacy of me, of mine, my way, me first. And that's just antithetical to being a Christian. That's antithetical to what the gospel calls us to. And I remember just the other day you were speaking with one of our clients, an amazing couple we've been working with, and they've had some dark days. And it was like the light bulb went off in her mind, because for so long, when her husband was disappointing her over and over again in his behavior, she felt this need to just bully him and hammer him and just be right. And it was like all of a sudden her eyes were open, and she realized, and she said, now I see how much I'm called to just love my husband as unto Christ. Yeah. And it was just such a beautiful picture of the gospel, because it's not her job to fix her husband. It's not your job to fix your spouse. Okay. It is you are called to love and serve them. You're not called to be right. You're not called to have the last word. And the gospel frees us that we don't have to be right. We don't have to have the last word. We don't have to dredge up all the stuff and then just, again, prove our point over and over again and beat our spouse up with their past failures and sins.
Right.
Because that doesn't lead us to anywhere but death and destruction and separation.
And love doesn't keep a record of wrongs.
Right.
When did we get the message that it changed once we got married for a few years? Yes. And now suddenly we're supposed to keep that record of wrongs.
We've seen too many couples do that, and it will destroy a marriage so fast, you guys.
And we were on that path too. Absolutely.
Yeah. We don't come at you with judgment. We're coming to you with a heart, because we've been there and done that. And it's like, we know firsthand the pain of trying to be right and trying to prove your own way. And then seeing how freed up you can be in the gospel. Because here's the thing, sometimes so much has happened. And it can be so hard, and there can be so much pain, and it can just feel like well, I just want him to understand. Well, I just want her to see what she's done, and then it's like this need to be right, this need to have the last word. It can really start to eat you up inside, right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And it can even look like a competition in your own home, where it's like, who's going to get the last word? Who's going to get their point across?
Who's going to win?
Who's going to win? Yeah, exactly. And you can win that battle, but are you winning the war? You can win that battle, but where is your marriage? You might be right, but there's not trophies for that, right? But many of you may be sitting out there and you're thinking, okay, Scott, I hear what you're saying. You're so right. You're absolutely on target about the gospel. Like, this is what we're called to. And we know that it's that we don't have to be right, but yet you're still there thinking, well, this is so hard though. This, in our context, it's not, Scott, you don't really understand. You don't know what it's like. You don't know what things have been like in the last few years. And that's true. Maybe it's even gotten to the place where you guys have stopped talking, and it's really difficult. Maybe one's even really stonewalling the other person, or one is withdrawing, or maybe even both of you withdrawing because you're just sick and tired of the fights. So what are we supposed to do if that's the case? That we don't simply give up. It just means the way that we've been doing things isn't working. What if you guys could learn communication skills so that you didn't have to always be right? What if some of those fights could be diffused with a wry smile and a little bit of a laugh and a joke? It's beautifully freeing when you realize how wonderful it is that you don't have to be right. And it's quite fun sometimes when you win.
Well, sometimes I like our joke when we always say, okay, we win. It's, because then it's like we can choose to say, you know what, we are going to win in this situation. And that's simply that we're going to agree that neither one of us, we can hear each other out. We can have different opinions, and neither one of us necessarily is right. And that's how we can both win.
Yeah.
And so, So guys, if that's you, and if you've come to the place where communication is just getting so hard, and you're drifting further and further apart because you're just so tired of the other person always trying to be right, or maybe you're in your own pride, you realize, oh, I want to be right. And I know I'm right deep down, and I just don't know why she won't get it or why he won't understand. Like, this is what we have for you. We want you to go ahead and book a call. Go to turnaroundmarriage.com/call and book a free call with Scott. He will give you massive clarity and really dive into what is not working in your marriage right now. And then talk to you guys about what you dream it could be. And then we can help you create a path to get from where you are to where you want to go. It can be the best 45 to 60 minutes you spend on your marriage, because guys, the truth is you can win the argument and lose your very marriage. And it's not worth it. It is not worth it.
Yes. And to look at that bigger picture. And that's one of the beautiful things that we do on that breakthrough call, is to help you guys to see some of the path if things don't change, and look at the path that you've been on and think about what it would mean to leave a lasting legacy. What would it mean to be free, to not have to be right? What would it look like to walk in a different path, you as an individual, but especially as a couple? It is so freeing. The Lord has laid out a way for us in the gospel to walk in that freedom, even in the context of our marriages, even if it's been a long time. But you might be out there and you're realizing, wow, I hear what you're saying, but it's going to be hard to start applying that in our situation. That's exactly why we're here. So again, turnaroundmarriage.com/call. We're pretty booked up for this week, and we've got a few slots left for next week. And definitely, if you guys feel like you need that support, we would love to be able to do that. We just appreciate you guys being here with us today. We hope that this has really stirred the pot and made you think about what are some of the most important things, because guys, we're not promised tomorrow. We're simply not.
Right.
We know we have today because we're here, but we don't necessarily know that we have tomorrow. So what legacy are you leaving behind today?
Yeah, you don't want to end up on your deathbed all alone with all the regrets of that you had to be right. Okay,
Yeah.
So guys, the gospel frees us up, and the gospel is true. Thank God that it's true. So
Amen.
Looking forward to talking to you guys again real soon.
God bless you. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.